Welcome, guys, to the Starting 11. Just to give you a recap of what the show is about. So it's about us talking about the top 5 or 6 stories over the football weekend. Obviously, if you dispute that, happy to jump in the chat. You think other things takes precedence. But tonight you've got myself, Michelle, who's a hardcore Arsenal supporter. And then you've got Joe as well, who's a massive Pompey fan. A little bit under the weather, so we'll give him, hopefully, he doesn't too much, actually. So fingers crossed. And then we've got Tabrice, who's a massive Liverpool fan as well. So welcome, guys. How are you all feeling? Good?
Yeah, other than the man flu, all good.
Which we've actually established before the stream. It's not real, but disagree if you want to. I mean, Tabrice, do you want to chip in?
I'm not going to say a single word.
Fair.
Got back to the brother.
He was backing you offline. Now he's online. He's not backing you at all. Sorry, Joe. Sorry. We are one man down. Billy's off sunning himself in Egypt, and he'll be back next week. So let's crack on to the first game to talk about, which is Tottenham 6, Leicester 2. So obviously, Son came back with a massive bang with a hat trick. Do we think that he's the person to kick on Spurs into like the top 4 or potentially be title contenders? What do we think? Obviously, I'm going to be.
I watched the game and they're not title contenders. And this is coming from someone that thought they would be. And Conte's so good at grinding results out, but I don't think the result shows a reflection of the game, if I'm honest.
What about this guy? Look at him. 3 goals, hat trick.
The goals were unbelievable, and they've got a team to potentially steadily hit the top 4. But that you're going to laugh at me, but this 6-2 result is what told me they won't challenge.
What? Are you really? I mean, it's a strong result.
You've only seen the highlights, and I can tell. Based on your reaction to me.
I actually watched the game fully, actually. I'll give you that. But obviously watching Spurs when they're doing well, kind of fleet in and out, I'm not going to lie. But
yeah, I just think they obviously had a successful counter-attack. The scoreline tells you it was very successful. I think Leicester are they're just rolling over at the moment. I fancy anyone to take them on, concede goals. I mean, I think it's like 20-odd goals they've already conceded. They've let in a lot of goals. And yeah, I mean, I sound ridiculous because, look, Spurs have just won 6-2. But for me, they can't challenge on the basis that I think they're too ordinary in the middle of the park. And if you've got, I don't care how well he's playing, if you've got Dyer as one of your starting 11, you ain't challenging for no title in the world.
Okay. But Tabrice, you look like you kind of disagree.
Oh, I mean, it makes, I think Dyer, he's okay. He's not like the best player, but he's a vital clog in the kind of Spurs machine. And I think maybe last year or maybe like a couple of seasons ago, Spurs would have lost that game. And it's the fact that Conte has faith in his team to drop Son. I mean, there's not a lot of clubs in world football, no matter how.
Yeah, I would agree. They would have just kept playing him. Yeah,
they would have kept on playing him. So it just proves how Tottenham have definitely improved. And again, Son, I'm not saying that he had something to prove, but and who comes on and scores a 15-minute hat trick and the goals as well, left foot, right foot, unbelievable. Would I say Spurs are in the mix for the Premiership? No, I have to agree with Joe there. But I think they'll be running close to Liverpool, Chelsea for 2nd and 3rd, respectively.
Okay, no, fair. Do you know what? I agree. I mean, I'm only not agreeing just because I'm an Arsenal fan, but yeah, I just don't think with Spurs. I think it's just the consistency, right? And I think actually when they get into Europe as well, I also doubt how that consistency is going to continue. I'm intrigued because obviously I am actually a massive fan of Son, but I'm like, who's more important to Tottenham? Is it Son? Is it Kane?
Kane for me still. I think they're both important, but for me, Kane is the amount of goals he scored consistently throughout. He still has major doubters, but he's unbelievable. He's a guaranteed 20-odd goal striker. In modern day, that's very rare.
But how many goals has Kane got this season so far? 2?
3, I think. 2,
2 or 3?
yeah, maybe 2 or 3, yeah.
But I'm saying 5s, and I'm not normally that far out. So,
to be fair, you are the stat man, so you know.
No, I'm wrong here.
I don't know if he's got 5, but yeah, I think it's 2 or 3. I don't think he's got that many.
Yeah.
But
He's a surprising chap, him.
I think what like Conte does really well, he can organize his teams, extremely well, very disciplined. And again, that's the reason why Dyer is now in the England fold, because Dyer is a very stable and he's a very good player if you play him in the right position. And again, like, he gets his goals, he can defend well. Yeah, of course he's not pretty on the ball, but who needs a pretty defender when you're winning 6s and 7s? And again, when you're kind of part of the kind of Conte regime as a defender or as a defensive player, tactically you will get better as the season gets them going. So no, again, Leicester will. Again, I totally agree with Joe. I think even if Leicester were playing Dagenham and Redbridge, I think they'll probably concede 6.
They're just all over the place, like
So on that, actually, so obviously, like, no one could deny the kind of goals that Leicester are kind of letting in. Are we saying that obviously Kasper Schmeichel's a massive miss?
No, I mean, he is a miss, but
say no.
I don't think he's the reason whatsoever.
Really? I mean,
yeah, I think he's missed, but you don't go bad overnight because of a change of goalkeeper at this level.
But they're still scoring. Leicester is still scoring, so that's not their problem, right?
To me, it seems to be. It rarely happens to clubs, because I see Leicester as sort of like a consistently top 6 challenger. I wouldn't say top 4, but they're like one of the better clubs in the Premier League. And for the last few years, they've been quite a strange club, because they'll go and batter Man City and then get beat by Villa. They're very up and down. But for me, by the way, I don't think they'll go down. I still think Leicester will be fine.
Really? Even though they're literally rock bottom.
They're rock bottom.
They're so far. They might as well be in the Championship right now.
I think Leicester will finish 13th.
What? So what's gonna be the difference for Leicester in the next second half of the season?
I just think they're a bit guilty of not making any signings to freshen the squad up. And sometimes it's not always because they've lost Fofana, who's a really good player at the back. So for me, that's a bigger dent in their armour than Schmeichel. Although don't get me wrong, I think he's a very decent keeper, Schmeichel. But Fofana for me is a bigger miss. And then they haven't freshened it up. And I think sometimes the biggest thing you can have in football is hunger. It's what managers try to drive into players. It's the same reason why when a new manager comes into a new club sometimes, even if they're not the best manager, it sort of gives the players that hunger back. I just think Leicester have got maybe a bit bored of being an easily top 7-8 club, not really going anywhere in the last couple of years. Okay. And I mean, that sounds a bit crazy, but maybe they're not hungry enough. There's no one pushing places. You can practically choose to start an 11 every week.
So does that then come down to the manager, surely?
It does come down to the manager, because for me, we're 7 games in now?
Yeah.
Well, actually, not necessarily, sorry. The reason I'm backtracking is 7 games in, normally you'd say, do you know what, I'm going to put a few fresh faces in. He hasn't got any fresh faces. So that might not have been his decision. That might have been the club and financially. So, that actually might be a good reason why they're keeping hold of him, because they realise they've made a bit of a boo-boo with not investing in the squad. But if it is him and he didn't identify the right players, sometimes just something different. You don't always have to have a player come in and be the best player on the pitch. I think just challenge him for places. And that's what I think they're missing, personally.
Yeah, and I think as well. I think I touched on it last week or so. But like the fact that there was a lot of players that were looking to leave, I think that mentally has an effect on a team as well. Like I think it's almost like mentally a lot of them are just trying to get to Jan just for that transfer window, and then they can all ship out as well. I do think that that's the kind of unrest in the club. So I don't know. I don't know if Brendan Rodgers will last till then. If I'm being totally honest, I reckon that. I mean, I'm surprised it wasn't. And he was announced that he was fired.
I'm not
After
sure
the
they've
week.
got the game, but I think it's I thought he was going to be announced fired. Yeah, maybe today is the only thing that's stopped that, but I'm not sure they've got next game. I don't think it's one of the big sort of 4-5. So I think he has to win or he's sacked.
Yeah, but then it's like who'd replace him? Like managers these days are scarce. If we're looking around, right? And actually, Leicester's is that a big enough draw for people to want to come to?
I think it's a massive, good club with good financial backing, relatively good players. It's not like trying to keep Bolton up or back in the day and stuff like that. No, they've got class there, so you have got a lot to work with. I think personally, I think it's a lot job to take.
You know what? In terms of the good financial backing, they've not backed Rodgers this window at all. And going like back to the Schmeichel situation, okay, I think a lot of the goalkeepers nowadays would have probably, it'd have been hard for them to have stopped a lot of the goals that Leicester have shipped in. But what you lose with Schmeichel is that kind of senior voice. You kind of lose that player that's actually won trophies at that club. You've actually lost an experienced player that the manager relies on in training and also on the pitch
and control the back line as well.
Yeah.
Didn't it?
So now after Schmeichel, who else is a senior? Like Vardy's injured, and Vardy doesn't really come across as that type of player. Then you're looking at maybe Ndidi, and he's right now is not in the best.
He's playing dreadfully, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's one of the worst that I've seen.
Exactly,
because I've rated him quite highly.
Yeah, so I mean, Leicester right now is not an attractive club to actually be at. Any manager that goes in knows that they are looking to tighten their purse strings. They're looking to sell as many players, and again, go through this 5-6 year or season transition again. And Leicester will now be a bang average mid-table team.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's going to be attractive to any kind of elite manager that's kind of looking to like better themselves and
I can imagine Parker going there.
Yeah, that's not a bad show actually.
It's an odd one.
But I just reckon he'll go there and he'll get sacked in 6 months. I feel like Scott Parker's just I mean, like he's a super sub that just keeps going, keeps moving along. I feel sorry for him because he even on touchline looks upset. But yeah, he'll be sacked in 6 months. Is it even worth his pain? I'm not sure.
Something T said there as well. I did say this the end of last season. It's horrible because I think he's been one of the Premiership all-time greats personally, but I think Vardy has hit that decline button quite rapidly.
Yeah.
Not just injuries, but he's a pacey player, so they tend to lose it a little bit earlier as well in the legs. And I mean, he can still finish, but again, he's a player that would get you 15, 20 goals in a team like Leicester nearly every year. He's not capable of that now. So if you take in Fofana, Vardy the best attacker, Fofana, the best defender, Ndidi's not playing well, and Schmeichel's left. So that's pretty fine in your team.
True, but it's actually quite an interesting point you make, Joe, actually, because we've got a comment actually from FSS who says, since Leicester lost Kante, they've never been the same. So this throws up the argument about Kante. Was it Kante? Was it Mahrez? Was it Vardy?
No, they've won an FA Cup since then and consistently reached top 10 in the Premier League. I think Kante was in a team with Mahrez, Vardy in his prime, and players that fitted around and won the league. So yes, they have been in decline since he left, but I kind of don't really get that statement. If I'm honest,
but if you look at Kante, when he went to Chelsea, they won the league, right? Straight after.
Yeah.
But I kind of get that Kante, that how important he was to Leicester. Actually, obviously, a lot of people argue that Vardy, like who else, like Mahrez, etc. But I think Kante went on to then win back-to-back leagues, right? So you have to kind of
with any side outside the top four, and that's what I don't like about modern day football. As soon as Kante hit that level, he was being bought. So maybe it's my mind, but I didn't even consider the possibility of him staying. It's the same as a couple of them stars. It
is interesting, the whole modern day football, because actually, like, if we, I mean, obviously there's so much money within it, but let's be honest, the modern day, like, football is a short career, right? If it's got a short lifespan, so you would then move for like money, right? Or just that exposure of like Leicester, were they ever going to win a Champions League? Probably not. So actually, would you not then move to a club that you can then succeed in all of your goals, and then, you know, you retire at 34, 35?
It's what the club wants, isn't it? I mean, when you're a club and you're offered 50 million for a player, plus they're off your wage bill, you know, you've got a massive decision to make as a club. We've got to keep him. We've got to up his wages. We've probably then got to make the choice of making the team better, so he wants to stay. And you're probably making a choice between bringing in 40, 50 million or spending 400.
Yeah.
It's that big a gap with a choice like that. So I can see why Leicester sold him, but...
And again, to be fair to Leicester, I think a lot of players that go to Leicester, I'm sure it's like a springboard. You know, I can imagine like the scouts saying, if you come to Leicester, then you're going to be in the shop window, you know, to the other elite clubs around the Premiership and also Europe if you're that good enough. So why don't you come and experience whatever we can have to give, and kind of get, you know, the support from our fans, and who knows? And, you know, I think that's Leicester's model. You know, Leicester is a selling club, really.
Yeah, their model does entice. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, Leicester really didn't want to sell Maguire, Fofana, Kante.
I think United want to sell Maguire.
I think United was.
They get 85 pence for it.
But then, you know, even Drinkwater as well. He can also went to Chelsea on the back of Leicester's win, because how Drinkwater and Kante worked well. Again, like, they kind of came in a couple. So it's. Yeah, I think, you know, everyone could see that Leicester were gonna decline, but the pace and literally how they're doing it now under, you know, the Brendan Rodgers regime, it's kind of scary.
And also, Brendan Rodgers started really brightly at Liverpool and sort of
declined.
Sort of stale.
Yeah,
like the team had got better, like personnel, but it just went a bit stale. Like no signings, very similar. You know, so maybe it is him. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe he just I don't know. Maybe he runs out of like ideas after a point, I guess. Like, he can't evolve with the team, which is probably his problem, because actually we've seen it everywhere he's gone. Right, he hasn't really reached that elite level. And it's interesting, Bruce, you mentioned Drinkwater, because you've got another comment from Webby, who I know personally is a massive Chelsea fan. So he's technically replacing Billy. He's here reincarnated. So he was saying that, you know, Kante makes every team better. Chelsea are missing him right now. Kante makes Pogba look great in the France midfield, and he won a Premier League with Drinkwater by his side. So obviously, Webby doesn't agree that Drinkwater is any good, but I mean, he faded.
I think Webby's trying to say he made Drinkwater look good, so that's
and it's apparently makes Pogba look good as well. Which, I mean, that's debatable in itself, but.
Good point.
Yeah, I think that's why I think, going back to the point about Kante making like the difference in Leicester is pretty much there, right? The evidence is wherever he's gone, even internationally, he's made whoever his partner is look great as well. I guess it's going back to, I think, Joe, you said this a couple of weeks ago, like having the freedom, like, you know, having players that you work with that give you the freedom to then like make others move forward, etc. So I think
in each other's roles, like. You can get two fantastic players that just don't work together. I mean, let's not open this debate, but Gerrard Lampard for England, you know, if the chemistry in the system doesn't allow it, it won't work.
No, definitely. All right, that's a good point to move on to the next game. Wolves 0, Man City 3.
They're so good. They're just
So are they unstoppable? Are they unstoppable?
at the moment, yes. Like I really don't like Man City.
Who does? Who likes them?
No, I can't. They're probably my least favourite team in the Premier League. I watch every week, and do you know what? I actually watch them just to hope they lose.
That's strong.
Every ticking second on a Man City game just makes me cringe. The touches, the play, the passing, they are... I was hoping this season would be closer, but for me, and actually, I'm hoping they do slip off to Arsenal, but no.
Do you know, I've got a bit of hope there. Bit of hope. And he took it away from me, Joe.
They are walking. I mean, the only enjoyment I get out of watching City, and this is genuinely the only enjoyment, is when Stones scores a great goal and defend, because I'm a great admirer of Stones, by the way, and Foden, the way he plays. I think, yes, England. That's how much I can't even... Haaland is just a lump of platinum. Not even gold. It's a lump of platinum. Do you know what? He's the type of guy that would take your school lunch off you at school and still walk away and the teachers would stick up for him. He's a snummy. He's excellent, isn't he? He'd nick your girlfriend and you'd never hear again. So good.
I mean, great lyrics. Speaking of Haaland, when do you reckon he will surpass Salah's record of was it 32 goals in the season?
Next week. Well, I love, like the other week, you must have seen the interview when they said, Borussia Dortmund, they sort of got the better of you, didn't they? They managed to sort of keep you at bay. And he was like, well, no, because I scored. Did anyone see that?
No, do you know what? But he's just brilliant in interviews, isn't he? He's just brilliant.
He believes he's the... Do you know what? He's a bit Ibrahimovic. I didn't think he was like that, but he is dangerous, man.
Yeah, didn't he say something? Didn't someone say that he doesn't get enough touches of the ball? And he was just like, well, if I get 5 touches, I score 5 goals, I've done my job.
Go and have a look how many touches Van Nistelrooy used to have. Because I've never seen a player score so many goals. He never used to really be involved in the play that much.
Yeah.
I'm not comparing him. They're very different players. But he can score all sorts of goals. And because of his size, he does bully defenders. Like, really bullies them. The only thing I would say, I won't say it's a hope because I'd never wish it on any player, but I do think his running style does mean he potentially might get injuries more than most at his age.
Interesting.
There's my sports science coming in.
I mean, what is he? So he's like 7 games in, 11 goals.
They done some analysis on if he's on scoring at this rate, he'll finish on 57.
57.
That's the rate currently going at 50.
That is mental. That's actually mental. Imagine your debut. Like most players come into the Premier League, try to settle in, find their feet. My guy's already on 11 goals. Like it's actually mad when you think about it.
Race, and he's smiling on the TV, and I can't stand City, and I just can't have it. But I can't lie. He's everything and more.
He's to be fair, do you reckon he's going to be difference of them finally winning the Champions League? Oh, okay.
Been the best team in the competition for the last couple of years, so I've fancied them every year, and I'll say City again because I do think they're better. They're the best team in Europe for me, but Champions League doesn't really work on that model. So I think Haaland does offer them an out because they don't have to play football. He can sort of make a nuisance of himself a little bit up top. So it gives him another dimension. But if I'm honest with you, I reckon Haaland probably looks at like Bernardo Silva, Foden, these creative players, and he's probably thinking, I mean, I knew they were good, but he didn't get service like that.
Yeah, that's true. I
reckon the best service he's had, and he's not going to say that because you wouldn't. It takes away from, and I'm not taking anything away from his goals, but the service you get in that Man City team is I'd fancy myself to get 10 a year.
You know, Joe, you know, like you've got to run into the box, you know, like you can't just
actually move. You have to sort of move,
I'm
actually.
going to stand 20-yard line, come to me, bang, hit.
I reckon 2 goals you could probably get.
Both penalties.
No fair. Let's talk about this incident, which was, I mean, someone tell me what he was thinking. I mean, generally, I mean,
do you know what? It wasn't malicious. It's all right to slow it down. It was a very quick. Just, do you know what they compared?
that is no, but Joe, look how high.
No,
it's 2 foot off the ground. Come on.
No, but it's just stupid. There was no maliciousness. He just completely did his
Lost
brain
it.
didn't tell him that actually the ball's that height. If you miss the ball, you're going straight. It's just a moment of madness, and I don't think it's malicious. It's definite red, but people are liking it to the Haaland one last week. But the Haaland one was different, and I'll tell you why. For anyone who knows, did you all see the Haaland one?
No, I didn't see
I
it.
didn't see that.
The Haaland one very similar, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
However, Haaland, the player was almost coming from behind him, so he couldn't see the player. He put his foot up to control the ball. It was very similar, by the way. You'll have to look at it. He didn't get a booking at all. People were screaming for him to get a red, but that is the difference. When referees are looking at players that are coming face on, they can see exactly how they're coming. That's what influences a ref's decision, because a ref is saying, hang on a minute, you can see everything that's about to happen, and that is a conscious decision, and that's why.
No, that's fair.
I think what Collins tried to do, Man City were in total control. Grealish was absolutely taking the biscuit with everyone. And I think what he tried to do as a defender was like, you know what, we can't get close to them in ability. I'm going to try and go in with a very hard challenge to try and get the crowd back on our side.
I don't reckon.
You know, but like he got it completely wrong. And yeah, I mean, it was a straight red. You know, malicious or not, like, you know, it was
dangerous play, right?
It's dangerous play. You know, that's, you know, he like could have, you know, I don't know, cracked ribs or whatever it is. You know, again, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you burst appendix. I mean, like, don't forget these athletes train, like they train their bodies.
They're strong.
They're strong. So like if like we took an impact like that, I think, you know, we're just talking about bruised ribs or possibly more. So it's, you know,
that could send you away in an ambulance. Them challenges,
100%. So yeah, I have no qualms about like the red. Yeah, again, exactly what Joe said. It's kind of great to see Foden thriving in the City team. Like Grealish is now getting a bit of time. Stones as well. So hopefully this bodes well for like England. I mean, it's going to be so hard to really stop City. I agree with Joe in terms of the Champions League is a completely different kind of a process regarding goals, you know, goal scoring. However, sometimes you can concede 2 or 3, but score 5, knowing that Haaland's got 4. So it's a, you know, it's a, yeah, I can definitely fancy City to be semi-finalists, finalists, and again, just how people play football now in the elite level. It's the big, strong number 9 now that people are looking for, and Man City have their golden boy.
No, they do. Just go to a couple of comments. Actually, we've got a comment from FSS saying Premier League needs to check Man City for doping. I mean, they're just good. Let's embrace it. And then Webby's come through saying, I mean, another shout out to Chelsea again. You're worse than Billy, Webby. Everyone said that City were but Chelsea beat them in Champions League. But Haaland may be the missing piece. They're scary and he's only 22. That's fair. He's actually very, very young. And as I said before, like, he hit the Premier League running. Like, it's hard to do in the Premier League, and he's proving, you know.
Billy on a different account.
Do you know what? I think they're interchangeable. Lucky I do actually know Webby personally, so I definitely, this is all Chelsea, so I know it's him. And then just agreeing with your point, actually, Joe, about Haaland always plays with a high foot as well.
But a high foot to Haaland is like Ibrahimovic. It's like his high foot is most normal players' head height.
I was going to say, Kante's head height. It's Kante. He's one of the tallest players in the
Kante's up to his knee.
Also, let's talk about Wolves. So, what do we think this guy is going to bring
Nothing
to Wolves? Wow.
Over the hill.
What? Like, I mean, come on. At least menacing and annoying the defenders.
Look, you heard it here first. And Webby's a Chelsea fan, and I watch a lot of Costa. I loved him, rough and tumble. He'll still have that about him, but he just won't have that edge. And I think he will not offer much at all. And I actually don't think he'll get a lot of game time after a couple of games. I think it'll be a signing that never happened because you sort of play for Wolves. That's what I believe.
I don't know. I feel like he'll add. I mean, he's got experience at least, right? That's something.
How old is he? 35?
Yeah.
It's probably about 34, 35.
I mean, I would say that we won't add nothing. I think he'll contribute something at least. I mean, Wolves, they need all the help they can get really at this point, actually. They're kind of like, I don't know, founder. I don't know if they'd, I'd put them in like relegation battle at some point, I reckon, towards the end of the season.
Football, I don't see him as relegation. I see him in sort of Leeds category where they've just got enough to win the odd game. As daft as that sounds, just enough. But hopefully I'm wrong. So I love Diego Costa. I think he's a fantastic player. Really old school, wind you up, absolute pain in the arse, goal scoring machine. Like I love him. I just think for someone his age that obviously clearly still wants to play, there's talk that he isn't going to be fit for another couple of weeks.
Oh, really? Okay.
And that is fitness. That's not any injury. Apparently, it is just match fitness.
But he's always struggled. He's always struggled with that, though. He's always struggled with that, hasn't he? Just even when he was in his younger days, right? So like weight, etc.
If he struggled then, 35. No, do you know what I'm saying?
No, it's fair. That's fair.
I would be very, very surprised if he does even a 5 out of 10 performance in terms of how do you rate that signing. I'll be surprised if he's half decent, if I'm honest.
Oh, that's a shame. I mean, as an Arsenal fan, I personally do not miss him in the Premier League because he
loved you guys, didn't he?
Terrorised so badly that like literally nightmares I used to have with him. But I don't know. I like to think he will bring some experience and some kind of stability as well with Wolves. I think they have, I don't know, I feel a bit sorry for them because they have lost, a couple of their players, which actually, to be fair to them, I don't know if they've ever replaced. They've not replaced anyone that they've kind of sold.
If I'm a top club now, like if I'm Arsenal, if I'm Man United, I'm signing Neves.
Yeah.
I'm signing him. I'm signing him January. I watched him so much. I think he's an outstanding player.
There was talks of him like looking to ahead of the season for him looking at other clubs like potential interest wasn't there, but I don't think anything happened from it.
No, but he's a really good player, and that's what I mean. I think they've got good players. I think they've got enough. I think they'll finish about 14th, 15th.
I think with very similar to Leicester, you could have let your captain go on loan to another Premiership rival.
That was odd. Yeah,
that was very odd. So and again, again, we don't know him, but he seems like a player that you would want in your camp.
But look what he's done.
Like he's already captain of Everton already after a couple of games. It's strange for him to leave, and they're conceding goals and then.
Do you think they had a falling out, Grace?
Sorry.
Do you think there was some sort of falling out?
100%.
A really strange decision as well.
Definitely, 100%. Like you don't loan your captain to another Premiership team so quickly.
No. Have you ever done that, Shell? Like your captain one season played well,
Yeah, no, I agree with Teresa. I definitely think there's something going on behind the scenes. Like, it's just an odd thing to do. I mean, I'm saying it from like Arsenal's point of view, where we kept selling all of our best players and potential captains to like our rival teams. But that was it. I think it was a bit of it was a strange move, I reckon. So I think there was definitely something, but we never know, do we? We need someone behind the scenes to be leaking these stories, or that we have to wait till they retire and they write a book, right? So I guess
you probably won't find out. They've probably got that agreement. You'll find out when he retires in like 6 years' time or something like that.
No, definitely. Well, on to, I'd say this is top billings, but I am biased. But can we all just embrace the fact that Arsenal are still top of the league, actually.
They were awesome. Absolutely awesome. My main man, Saka.
Yeah.
I would marry him. I love him.
What would your wife say?
Exactly.
I don't know, but I feel like Saka would put his all into that as well. Look, the man is unbelievable, but I always mention Saka. I have to give a special mention to someone who I think's been absolutely outstanding. Not outstanding in terms of better than his peers, but I think he's improved so much. And Xhaka, for me, it's not just he's playing well. People go through phases of playing well. It's not just what he's been through, taking his shirt off and his captain's armband. For me, it's the development at his age to be able to go, right, the team have got this way of playing, so I'm going to now turn, face, get in these positions while still winning the ball and doing the sort of gritty stuff that he used to do. It's like you've got Xhaka and then Xhaka 1.1 added on, because he's doing an additional job to what he used to do. Now, whether that's fitness, I don't know. Whether it's Arteta telling him, this is what I think you should be, or whether the formation, I think it's miraculous, because I never ever thought, and I'm not just talking about this game, by the way, I'm talking the last 5-6, the United game, all sorts, almost turned into creative player while still doing, and much respect, I thought he was man of the match, not just because of the setup, but the vision, and he surprised me. I just didn't think he had more in his locker as a player, to be honest. I always rated him, but
we saw glimpses of it in when he plays for like Switzerland, didn't we? Like, in terms of that Xhaka that we're tired to see in the Arsenal team now is what basically happens every time he goes on international G. I'm with you. I don't know what it is, the marrying of, I don't know whether, maybe it's just a feel good feeling around the club, right? Top of the league, like we've got new players in, like it feels like there's a new buzz. I don't know what it is, but there's definitely been a step change. And I think with him, it's always the discipline aspect that people worried about. But it seems like something's clicked with him. And even him being a captain yesterday, I was a bit like, fair play. And I think every Arsenal fan was a bit like, we've kind of moved on past, him throwing his toys out of the pram. So I think actually that has probably helped him as well, in terms of like he's come full circle with the club. And I think he's just kicking on, which is, it's great to see. It's great to see. I don't fully trust it just yet, because knowing him, there's always a red card on the horizon. So I'm not gonna gas him too much, but I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm liking it. And like you said, actually, Saka is just brilliant. What a player!
Player of yours. I think it's so rare that you get a player that that not just takes instructions from their manager, but consistently makes the right decisions, are fit, they play for the team. Do you know what? I'd imagine he's an absolute dream to coach, like an absolute dream.
Yeah.
Okay, so this might be a little bit controversial.
Oh gosh.
But I think Saka is what's the word I'm looking for? He is putting his audition tape up for City and Liverpool to snatch him next season.
I mean, Liverpool already like dipped their toes in the water. You know about that. Like, Klopp is a massive fan of him, and he's made no secret about it. I think if we can secure Champions League football, he would stay. That is the bottom line. I don't see why you'd go. He's a main man in Arsenal. Sometimes that plays a part, right? If you can actually look at your team setup and actually I can be the main guy there. I can actually get game time, get minutes. He's not fighting for anyone for his spot. He's got that spot straight away. If we can challenge for the Premier League, challenge for some silverware, why would you leave? Is my question.
I think he is potentially. This will come and bite me on the bum a bit later, I think, but I think potentially with him as well, he is one of the few modern day players that I think might have a bit of loyalty, circumstances considering.
Yeah.
Let go, look, we can't turn this down. This is, 145 million or something stupid where the club say, actually, we're going to accept it. I think if it's one of them decisions where he has to make it, I don't think he's one of these players that I would say would definitely go.
Yeah. Do you kind of think that like Arsenal, like they're showing a new resilience, or because obviously we've got Webby again, who's obviously knows a Chelsea fan. He's scared of Arsenal and Spurs, which is a big statement from other clubs. And I think actually people are starting to take Arsenal a little bit more seriously, I think. Would you say?
Actually, Michelle, like, what do you think? Actually, you guys are top of the league. Like, I'd love to get your opinion about.
So interesting. So for example, right. So when I saw the lineup and the subs for this game, I'm not going to lie. I was like, oh gosh, this is the warning sign, because I don't think our squad is deep enough. I do think in Jan, because of where we're at, if we can keep this momentum until the World Cup, I think Jan will spend a significant amount, because I'm not going to lie. I thought by Arsenal bringing on this guy, I thought it was a little, I'm going to be really cynical and Arsenal fans might come for me, but I think it was a little bit of a distraction because our bench was shocking, actually.
Yeah.
There was no one on there. So say, for example, we went 2-0 down. There was no one really on there. Obviously, like, Odegaard was injured, Zinchenko was injured, like, Emil Smith-Rowe was injured. I was looking at our bench going, if something goes horribly wrong, we're massively screwed. We had like saving grace that we didn't have our, Europa League game. That saved us, because I reckon there could have been another couple of knocks or injuries. But I reckon, like, if you looked closely at that subs bench, I mean, the story was about Nathan, what's his name?
Ethan something, yeah.
Ethan, that's it. Yeah. Sorry, So like Nawawe, I think that was a bit of a distraction because our bench. If you looked closely, you're like, if there's any more injuries,
that's where Spurs have the upper hand slightly. I think in squad depth, I think they've got slightly more squad depth. But the thing that I like about Arsenal this year is they've shown resilience. They've gone down and come back from behind to win. They've controlled games. They controlled the United game, to be fair, but the counter-attacks obviously done them in the end. So it's not just that they've controlled and lost the odd game. They've shown all different attributes that a team that are looking to finish first and second have got. And I think their starting 11 is good enough, but I agree. Shell, I'm not a fan of Eddie.
I know you're not.
I know he's quick and he's not. It's just, we all get it. Sometimes we watch a player and do you know what? I hope I'm wrong because, the lad's in a good team at the moment and I'd like to see him make it, to be honest, because I don't mind Arsenal and I like youngsters coming through, but no. If Jesus gets injured and he's up front, just imagine that now. Where do you think you're going? Because you ain't winning these games.
Like Brentford are I'd say an established Premier League club, and they're kind of like Stoke, 2.0. They
they ain't that bad. They're not.
No, like we're not that bad. I think Brentford could easily finish in the top 12 easily. Like they're like that. They're like that club, and for Arsenal to kind of go there and beat them convincingly, and again a clean sheet, and they didn't look troubled at all.
No,
and I'm like, Arsenal fans, I've got this love-hate with, Arsenal fans, but at this present moment, I'm looking at them and thinking, you know what? Am I looking at the next Leicester right here? Am I kind of looking at a team that just seems to just kind of get really good results Everyone seems to be playing for the manager.
Well,
Yeah,
I think we'll see when they play the big teams, because they've only played United. And when I say big teams, that's probably not the right phrase. The more expensive known big teams, because I don't think United's a big team in terms of quality anymore. But they lost to United, so the real test for me is when they play Tottenham, Chelsea. If they start going through these games easily, but actually they start coming undone every time they come against a bit of quality, that's the sign for me. And they've only had one. That's the only thing that's holding me back from saying that Arsenal can challenge. Is because I thought they were naive against United, and I thought they should have put them to bed. So and they've got the control, they've got the bounce back. I want to see them be ruthless and smash up Spurs 3-0.
I was going to say, so if Arsenal beat Spurs like on the 1st of October, do you reckon that is a telltale sign that we're starting to challenge?
Are they at Spurs?
I think so, actually. I'm not sure.
I think a draw and playing well would be enough for me to go potentially. If they win, potentially. I don't want to see a cagey affair. This is the issue with Arsenal. I don't want to see an affair where Arsenal turn up, have a lot of the ball, and then go, oh, you know what, but we played well. Because I speak to a lot of Arsenal fans, and it was the same last year. Yeah, but we played well. I don't want to see that. If you're going to win leagues and you're going to challenge, you have to be ruthless. And that's probably my one criticism of Saka. Has he got that in his blood? Can he be a nasty bit of work and be ruthless and tuck 2 chances away when he only gets 2? I know I sound like a man now, but that's what Arsenal need to have. And I think if they find themselves after a few hard games going, yeah, but we played well, like you did against United, there's a risk that Arsenal fall into the same category of just not being good enough to challenge. No. And I think Arteta needs to get that bite from them. I've seen everything else.
But it's having that balance though, right? That bite and then that lack of discipline. Because I think Arsenal's shown that many times that when they try to have that bite, the lack of discipline comes in and there's red cards all over the place. So it's having that balance, right? And how to manage that. So I think that's where Arteta he might struggle with that himself, as we've seen that discipline is a massive issue from the last.
Yeah, they controlled the game against United so well. They were definitely by far the best team. And loads of people, I've seen loads of TikToks on it, and people saying, well, it don't matter if you're the best team, it's goals that count. That's not strictly true, because there's a bigger picture. Obviously, goals count and you get beat. But actually, if they were a little bit more disciplined and ruthless, they win that game. Even if they break away, they had enough chances, enough possession. It is a fine balance. But I want to see shackles off Arsenal. I've not seen them yet this year. And that's the character that I think is the only missing piece of the puzzle. And 3 new signings sit on the subs bench.
Fair. And I guess going on to Brentford, do we think that they've kind of lost momentum, or is this just one loss in there?
I think they're all going to be up and down, isn't they, T?
I think they'll be fine. I mean, I'm not too sure where Brentford are right now, but again, like beating United. Who else have they beaten? Leeds as well. I think they'll be fine. And hey, like they kind of seem to be a very close knit unit. Their kind of squad isn't like ridiculous as well, but I think they can have a style of play, and they play it well, and they just came up against a really good Arsenal team. They'll be fine.
No, fair. I'm just going to go to some of the comments because they are quite funny. So FSS said Arsenal going to hold on to Saka like chilling. That is harsh. That's actually out of order, because that was brutal.
Nowhere then.
But to be fair, we will do. So thank you. Another comment by FFSS. So bringing on Nathan, I think it was Ethan actually, that was my bad, was a political move. I do agree, actually. I do think that there was, I mean, it's a bit like, remember when Walcott got brought on to the World Cup or Euros by Sven? I think it's a similar thing to kind of just, I don't know, take away the pressure.
Yeah. It's almost a statement rather than genuinely giving him a start on.
Yeah, Exactly.
But I mean, you've like now put pressure on that young player. Like as a Arsenal fan and and him, like Ethan now, like imagine him going to school or going to do his A levels or whatever he's doing. Like
GCSEs.
GCSEs. Yeah, see what I'm saying? He's 15. Like, if that's not kind of now, it's going to be very interesting to see how like the player care at Arsenal now kind of cope with that particular player and the demands he is now going to get on social media, in training, with his friends, with his family.
Crazy. Yeah.
So, like, I don't think it was what I'm saying? Like, if he's young enough, he's good enough. And I don't think Arteta is that type of coach just to put a young player in, just to put a young player in. There must be a reason why he thinks that this player could be the real deal. But let's be real. A 15-year-old kid or teenager, because literally he's not a kid, he's a teenager playing Premiership football is a big deal. Yeah. It's a big deal. So if anything, that's probably heaped on more pressure on Arsenal and also like the squad and everything else. So yeah, that's just my fault.
No, that's interesting because Billy's found some Wi-Fi. He's found some Wi-Fi. He's joined us. He was saying that he thinks it's a statement that he's not afraid to use young players, which I think actually that's not a bad shout. I guess it's like bringing in the younger players, and obviously that's a philosophy that kind of Arsene Wenger always had as well.
Yeah, part of the feel-good factor as well. There's a lot. Arsenal are known to bring youthful players through. Maybe it's not just for him, but it's everyone challenging behind the scenes that are on the fringes to sort of say, come on. Because maybe he knows he hasn't got a strong bench. So he's showing people that, if you're good enough, you're old enough.
Yeah, which I think is fair. Let's move on to the final game we'll discuss, which is Everton 1, West Ham 0. I mean, I feel like Lampard's been saved for maybe a couple of weeks since the international break has kind of saved him an extra week. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not convinced Lampard's going to be there at Christmas, but that's just my feelings. But I don't know if any of you guys have a similar thought. I mean, we said this about like Brendan Rodgers and then Tuchel got fired. Obviously, I know, Joe, you called it. You did call it ahead of the time.
I haven't
mentioned it. I'll give you those props now. You did call it. But I don't think anyone saw that happening before, like Brendan Rodgers or Lampard, if I'm being honest.
I actually think Lampard will be sacked. I think he'll be given another transfer window. And I think they've made a mistake, Everton, in my opinion, not getting rid of Gordon to invest it in the squad. But maybe that's why they didn't sell him then, because they couldn't get anyone in. I think that's very much the case here. But he's made some really clever signings. You got Tarkowski, Cody. These are absolutely quality Premiership defenders.
Yeah.
And I think Everton will be one of the lowest scorers in the league this year. But what Lampard said is, right, who can I get? Right, quality. It's a bit like Redknapp used to do in Portsmouth days. He used to look at people that were proven and good. And as daft as it sounds, it gets you results. So I think they'll be solid enough at the back to stay up. And I actually think Lampard will stay until he gets a transfer window.
No, fair. Okay, that's fair. I mean, I think that's a true point because he's Lampard. I do think Lampard gets a lot of like favours and buys.
It's a job,
which it does annoy me. I'm not going to lie, but he is who he is. That's football, isn't it? Right.
Yeah.
And I think the same will probably happen to Gerrard, right? But he seems to have kind of pulled through on Aston Villa anyway. West Ham, though, interestingly, because obviously they're going from mid-table club. I mean, one point they got relegated to like now being almost back to their old ways, would we say, or is it just the phase?
It's just a phase. I think they overachieved last year. They did really well in the Europa Cup. I think was it semi-finals they got to?
Yeah.
Semi-finals.
Knocked out by Brentford, I think.
Yeah, and if you kind of look at their squad, they're playing Antonio as a makeshift, number 9, and he's not really that type of player. You're looking at Rice and is it Schaffel or Schofeld, the midfielder? Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
Or Suchek.
Yeah.
Suchek or Shufel.
Shufel. Sorry, apologies. I'm sure Shufel is like that cooker.
Are you thinking midfield or right back?
I'm thinking the midfields.
That's
the person
Suchek.
Suchek. Apologies. Apologies, Suchek, if you're watching.
Actually.
Yeah, but I mean, again, you know, I think everyone was talking about Rice, and like maybe Rice thought he would be moving on from West Ham as well. So that didn't materialize. You know, you are looking at not an aging back four, but you know, it's a kind of back four that's kind of probably just past its prime. And again, you're looking at Moyes now thinking, oh well, you know, we need an investment of close to 100 mil to really kick on again, which they don't really have. He'll be safe in the job. I think that hopefully the fans realize that they overachieved last season. They like, do you have is it an Italian striker, or they bought someone who's supposed to be decent? And again, I heard that the game was really boring anyway, but just kind of Everton West Ham game, and I think West Ham will be definitely hard to beat. But again, I think they'll be finishing again top 13, and Moyes will be safe. But
do you know,
yeah.
Do you know my worry with West Ham? I think they'll be okay, but my worry is the deeper they go into this UEFA competition, because on their first two, it becomes almost an issue. If you're looking like you're not doing very well in the Premier League and you're down that drop zone, it then becomes a distraction because they probably haven't got enough to win it. I think they overachieved last year, but I still think they're the type of side in the UEFA Europa League that could probably get to the latter stages again. But its format. So my worry is they haven't got the biggest squad in the world, and actually, I think they'd be safe. But could the additional games potentially drag them lower?
Yeah, just because I guess with them, that what they achieved last season was amazing, but they're not used to that many games, right? In terms of the season, so that's bound to have an effect on them, regardless. Also, I guess I'm still trying to wonder what happened with Lingard. Like, what happened there? Because I think they were thriving when he was in the squad on loan. I'm not sure what happened in terms of, like, obviously he went to Forest, but I'm like, actually, what happened there in that breakdown? Because I think they had opportunity to kind of like, keep that momentum going, but then that didn't happen. So I don't know. I do worry about West Ham, just because I think with those same things I have with Arsenal, like the more those games come in, you don't have the squad depth or even that experience to play that many games. You're going to have a drop off massively.
I think the fans will be satisfied finishing 14th and getting to a UEFA final, because again, I think a lot of the fans haven't experienced like European nights like Arsenal and like Liverpool.
A lot of the fans, halfway through, if you come Christmas time and they're lurking around that bottom three, the fans won't care about Europe. They'll care about them going down.
No, but I don't think West Ham will go down. That's the thing. So it's like, do you kind of want to go with what you've literally known West Ham to do is just finish safe in the table, or would you want to go on a cup run? Would you want to go to different stadiums all across Europe and literally experience different things? I think like the fans now would literally want to experience that, and knowing that their team is safe, even if they lose a couple of more games now, no one would see them as like any. No one would see them as.
I don't see them as relegation contenders. I don't, but I do. It's funny. Sometimes you look at a team and you think if the right circumstance meets together, they could be in trouble, and that's what I think. I'll make my call. I think West Ham have finished about 13th, but I think they're one of the clubs that I think could have done without European football this year, and I think the right set of circumstances hit them.
No, you don't say like every club, every mid-table club, every fan wants to be in Europe.
Yeah.
Let's not knock being in a European competition.
Well,
Yes, the Premiership is amazing, but there's only going to be a few teams that are going to be competing. And this year it's going to be Man City, Man City, Man City, Man City, Man City. So let's kind of rule everything out. You know, every other club would love to experience that European journey. Let's not squash being in Europe. Like, let's not say, we shouldn't be doing it. Like, no, like, go.
No, I'm not watching it.
Out.
I'm saying it can become an issue because if you're in the bottom of the Premier League or lurking around the bottom, them games coming up, they become either one or two things. They either become your biggest uplift because you almost don't want to think about the Premier League. So actually, it's a nice. Or when you've got a thin squad or you're not playing well, you're playing Tuesday or Thursday and then you're playing Sunday, and actually affects the legs. I just think, I don't think.
No, Joe.
Do you know, you have to think about actually, like, people want to play for their countries, right? Europe provides that platform that catapults them to get even selected for that, and like that's for a lot of players. That's the goal and the ideal. So, like, in terms of Europe, it will never not be a goal for any club, right? And actually,
Europe is obviously. Pompey went to Europe, and it was amazing. We had nights against AC Milan and all sorts, but fundamentally, it's so hard for clubs that haven't got massive squads to compete.
Yeah,
and I think West Ham be safe, but I just think if the universe comes together in a certain way, they might have to look at themselves.
So Webby's asked, who's finishing 13th, Leicester or West Ham? Make up your mind.
Around that. I think, okay, I'll make this statement because I think Webby's saying, Webby, I've said about, not exactly about. After Leicester, because of their squad depth, albeit very poor, will finish above West Ham in the table this year, Webby.
There you go.
And they're both.
Agree?
No, I think West Ham will finish above Leicester. Don't know in what positions, but I think West Ham seem to be a lot more of a kind of solid unit, and Leicester is just unraveling. And they won't get. I think either club will not get relegated, but West Ham will finish higher than Leicester.
Fair. Billy's asked a question to Joe. If Portsmouth were West Ham's position, would you be happy?
Great question, and it's a good word. And my answer would be no.
Really?
What?
Oh.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I have to see consistency and progress, and I think West Ham overachieved last year. So actually, people were expecting them to probably be easily top 10 this year. And they're going to struggle because Antonio's aging. I always talk about age because I think it's a massive factor. They've got Scamacca or whatever his name is who is supposed to be a decent player, but he hasn't done anything yet. You've got Creswell and Kufel that are both aging. And I just think, no, I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be happy, no.
No, fair.
Because that game, I don't know if I only watched the extended highlights of the Everton game, didn't see the whole lot. Such a boring game. It was
boring. It was
thrilling.
It was one of them games where if you turned up, you won easily. You won 2-3-0 because they were both just ordinary.
Mm.
And actually, Everton are struggling at the moment. It's the type of fixture West Ham would have fancied themselves getting something from.
Yeah. I don't want to end on this point, actually. Oh, there's this one, sorry. This, because this makes me quite happy from Billy, actually. He's made a point about, there's a very fine line of Chelsea and Lampard. But as a Chelsea fan, he must admit Lampard is not a good manager, which I think is quite a strong statement for a Chelsea fan. I don't know if Webby agrees with him as well, but what do you guys think? Do you agree?
I think he would have done a better than Tuchel had he stayed in the job. Chelsea would be further on now than what Chelsea are now if Lampard kept his job, but they wouldn't have a Champions League.
I think Lampard is a great example of trusting youth and giving youth an opportunity in the Premiership rather than buying big, because without Lampard, there'd be no Mason Mount, there'd be no James, there'd be no
Gallagher, Gordon.
There's so many. So
Before,
yeah. So yeah, like we need more managers or coaches like Lampard to actually put faith into like the academy rather than spending 90 million pounds on players. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I think Shell's laughing at Billy's comment.
This comment. I mean, I feel like literally Billy's here.
Billy.
He's been here throughout the
Billy.
night. So
Let's just pick this up. You know I'm like my predictions, right? So Leicester to finish higher than West Ham. And let's see after a couple of months if West Ham cannot get these cogs turning. You let me know if your friend's still happy.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, guys. That's the end of the show. Join us next week. I think we'll probably talking about a bit more like nostalgia, I think, because obviously it's the international break. So join us next week at 8:00. See you later.
That.